Property Investor Show is a very familiar face on the property scene. It is, of course, Richard Bowser, a landlord of some 21 years and also, of course, editor of Property Investor News. And Richard, first of all, I've got to ask you your reaction to the judicial review procedural hearing result yesterday.
Obviously very disappointed, Vanessa. A lot of people have put a huge amount of time, effort and energy, Chris Cooper and Steve Bolton and his team, and the 118 guys, lots of people. I know you've been very involved, Lisa. A lot of people have been really proactive in trying to get this moving, get this to where it's got to yesterday. So obviously very, very disappointed. For the whole landlord community, absolutely, yeah.
So what can we as a community do now?
Well, you can either roll up and lie down and pretend that it hasn't happened, or you can, clearly day to day as a landlord, you've got to deal with the reality, whilst at the same time taking stock of your own situation tax-wise. Absolutely, all landlords should by now have had a lengthy conversation, or if not more, with their specialist tax advisor, maybe with others as well, with your finance broker. Because there are implications if you decide to go to the limited company route. So from a landlord perspective, it's clearly something that people have to take into account. In terms of the community, in terms of the landlord coalition, which is effectively what Steve and Chris and 118 etc. have created, and your group as well. Clearly, I think this is the first step. The fact that a whole group of landlords and associated bodies, the NLA, the RLA, a couple of big heavyweight agents, I think Belvoir, have come in and supported, means that a whole group of people have come together for a common aim, and because obviously there's common interest. And yeah, I think this should not be taken lying down. I think what's been done so far is just the first stage of a campaign to create much wider awareness about what is going to be the implications of this. And I think the Axe the Tenant Tax campaign, the fact that 600 people came together at the summit earlier this year indicates the strength of feeling. Of course, we would like to see more support, but it raised 180 grand, and it shows the depth of feeling, but more specifically, it's the implications about going forward and how it's going to affect the tenants, basically.
Absolutely. I think it's a very good point that you made about the community coming together, because agendas were put to one side. Everybody was united against the Section 24. We were strength in numbers for sure, and that makes it all the more disappointing to me to go and see the panel here, the Section 24 debate, of which I saw you in there as well, and to see a room that was literally very poorly attended. That is landlord apathy. That is our biggest challenge, surely.
Yeah, apathy is a big problem, because we are at the Property Investor Show. Now, clearly, you don't have to be a landlord to be a property investor, and we're standing as part of the show where there are a number of stands around us representing overseas property. So this particular event attracts a much wider audience that does what I would call a hardcore landlord event. So the point I'm making is that not every property investor sees themselves as a landlord, and many landlords that only have one or two properties, and they are of course the vast majority, do not take this as if it affects them. Now, if they're a sort of a low earner in earning say 25,000, so relatively low earner, they're going to have a couple of properties, and this could well take them into a higher tax bracket. So their views may well change in the next few years. I mean that is clearly likely to, but apathy is the problem. If we in that panel debate that you just mentioned, we had representatives from the Residential Landlord Association, the RLA, from the National Landlords Association, NLA, whose combined membership is over 100,000, and they do very good work on relatively limited resources to fight the lobbying from groups such as Shelter, who are massively well funded. So they've got an uphill battle, absolutely. Yeah.
Very disappointing, that turnout. Let's move on to more positive things, Richard. What can we be positive about in the landlord arena? Clearly, we're enjoying fantastically low interest rates.
Yes.
We've got lenders slashing their mortgage rates right, left and centre. What else can we smile about?
I think there's a lot to be positive about if you think medium term. Short term, clearly, depending on what part of the country you are operating in, the various things that are challenging us, which weren't challenging us a few years ago. Obviously, 2 tranches of heavy attack on tax. That's the extra 3% stamp duty. That's the Section 24. We've now got what looks like another tranche of mortgage-related criteria change coming in, or likely to come in. And that's something else that people have to get their heads around, which is also going to affect the way that people position their portfolios ahead in respect of whether they choose to stay within a limited company entity or a limited individual, properties in your own name or joint names with your wife, partner, husband, etc., or to go the incorporation route. And I think this lending change may well, if it comes in a way that my understanding is, it may well tip a lot of people back in to go down the company route because of the lending criteria change. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So just to finish then, I guess, what's going on at Property Investor News? What sort of topics are you featuring? Because people are looking to diversify into such things as holiday lets.
Yeah, I think most of my readership are long-term landlords or property investor, small-scale developers. So what trends we've been seeing in the last 2 or so years, particularly in and around London, are moves towards land planning and development, moves towards mixed use, commercial, as opposed to low-yielding, pure residential in high-value city centres. We're probably seeing now a relative saturation of the HMO market. I have, probably like you, reservations about the latest trend of serviced accommodation. I think it's got its place if done correctly, and one is very systematic about it, but there's a lot of rah-rah about it from certain groups, and I do question its sustainability. But I mean, going back to your original question a few minutes ago about there's a lot to be positive about because of the fundamental lack of supply. We've got some build to rent coming in. I don't think it's going to come in many places in the way that some people are predicting, but it's certainly going to affect some city centres. London, Manchester, there's a lot of build to rent coming into Manchester. But we've got an article in the latest magazine about a build to rent story, which is a fantastic case study of how a relatively small scale investor is doing a build to rent strategy, and it's a fantastic approach. We had one last year with a 44-room HMO build to rent operation, fantastically profitable. Is it easy? No, it's not. But and it is more challenging, and that's probably the one fundamental thing I would say. The market is not where it was 15 years ago. You can't get 10% yields everywhere, anywhere near that now. So people have to work smarter. They've got to be more professional. Absolutely, they've got to be more professional in their attitude. They've got to take this as a business seriously. HMRC may not regard this as a business, but it is. And to make it succeed going forward and to take advantage of the opportunities that are going to be coming our way, and they are already, because obviously some landlords inevitably have been and will be selling up. And therefore that creates opportunity for those people that can see beyond this immediate stage of the cycle.
Well, I'm sure you've seen so much in your 21 years, Richard, and it's very wise words as always.